This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's Sweetheart, Davian. And
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
Hi there, this is Big Daddy Kill Krieger, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the website, the trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J., and it is a great day for wrestling because we are wrestling with Scudmaster Sexy, Krieger.
Hi mate, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
As am I. Can you tell us where you will be event-wise coming up next?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kicking off the year on the 27th of January. I am over in Sweden for Svensk Wrestling Sid. Really exciting start to the year. Can't wait to get back into it. So yeah, that's the next place to check me out. All my dates I'll announce on Facebook, Instagram. It's all at Krieger UK. So if you're interested in seeing where I'm going to be, please follow there to keep a wee eye out.
And where can we find your merchandise?
Merchandise, I've sort of dragged my feet a wee bit. I've not got an online store for that, so sadly you would need to see me in person. But if you're nearby, feel free to buy a ticket and come along and hopefully pick up some t-shirts.
Okay. And you don't have to go looking for his social media. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox. Alright, you work for ICW and Pro Wrestling Scotland. Can you tell us about your relationship with those companies?
Yeah, so they're two of the companies that I wrestle for most often. Pro Wrestling Scotland is ran by TJ Rage. It was TJ Rage that trained myself, and his promotion sort of growing from strength to strength. Last year was definitely their best year so far. They tend to try and bring in quite a lot of big names when they can. The last two shows they had James Storm over, which was brilliant, which was absolutely fantastic. So that's certainly a promotion to keep an eye on. I believe on Facebook and stuff, that's Pro Wrestling Scotland. If you keep an eye out on that, they've got some tremendous shows coming up. ICW, when I first started training, ICW was the place to be, and I would argue UK wrestling, it was certainly ICW and Progress that were the top two in the UK at that time. I've been lucky enough to wrestle for ICW for about six coming up for 7 years now, I believe. I've wrestled at the sort of big national arena in Glasgow, and I've been lucky enough to hold the tag team championships twice. But now I'm on my own, so the plan is to try and win some singles gold soon. But it's amazing. It's amazing to get to wrestle for companies like that, and anybody that puts their trust in me to go out there and try and entertain people that have spent hard-earned money, then it's my job to try and repay that trust.
So, you mentioned that your trainer is the promoter of Pro Wrestling Scotland. So is Pro Wrestling Scotland, essentially the home promotion at this point?
So I trained at the Premier British Wrestling Training School, and Premier British Wrestling have their own company, but the school that I trained at in PBW was ran by TJ Rage. TJ Rage has his own, so in terms of home promotions, it's Premier British Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Scotland.
Okay. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you ended 2023 with a broken orbital bone, no?
I did, yes, I did. Well, I injured my orbital bone. I believe that would have been maybe towards the end of November. I believe. I injured that doing one of the holiday park shows. Again, I've been lucky enough throughout my career that I've done quite a lot of holiday park runs that used to be ran by the sort of late great Brian Dixon. That's somewhere that I kind of credit the holiday parks with, kind of making me into the wrestler that I am today. So it was brilliant to be able to do that. But sadly, when I was doing one of these shows, just accidents happen. I get caught with a knee to the eye, and it sort of fractured my orbital bone. I was lucky that it didn't require surgery, so it was maybe 4 weeks recovery time. But then, obviously, when I got back to it, there's obviously you're still carrying some effects to that. I had a big match at ICW's Fear and Loathing, which is their biggest show of the year. I wrestled Andy Wilde. Andy being Andy decided to sort of go for that, and yeah, thankfully it's not broken again, but I kind of had to slow down my schedule a wee bit towards the end of the year to try and heal for that match.
Wasn't it Andy that initially broke it?
No. So Andy didn't initially break it.
Okay.
Andy just decided to target it when I wrestled him, which I guess if I was in his position, I maybe would have done the same thing. But no, it was the first time that it got injured was just an accident. These things happen. The second time it was Andy being Andy.
Okay. Well, can you tell us about your relationship with your Glasgow Grindhouse tag mate Luke King Sharp?
Oh, what can I say about Luke King Sharp? So this year, so 2024 marks my 10th year in wrestling, and I think for seven years of that I've been teaming with, maybe even more actually, maybe about 8 years I've been teaming with Luke King Sharp. Lou's been wrestling a bit longer than me. I think Lou's maybe been wrestling around the sort of 13-year mark, so it's been brilliant for both of us. It helps that Lou is one of my real life best friends as well. So being able to sort of travel up and down the UK for years together, and now to be able to travel sort of across Europe, predominantly Scandinavia and stuff with him, has been absolutely fantastic. We've done some amazing things as a team, and on top of that, we're also probably each other's biggest supporters when we are doing our individual stuff. He does a lot of things that I don't normally get involved in, so he's very active in the sort of deathmatch scene in the UK. It's not really something that I've really dipped my toes into that much. But no, I like to think that we've both helped each other's careers an awful lot, and hopefully we'll continue to do so for a number of years.
What's a pet peeve about Lou that you just don't understand about
him? So, in terms of, I'll try and keep it purely to wrestling, because if I was to talk about pet peeves in his personal life, I don't know where I would be able to stop. My biggest pet peeve with Lou, and I've said this to his face numerous times, is as soon as we get into a venue, regardless of where it is, regardless of what show it is, regardless of where we are on the card, regardless of anything, the first thing Lou will try and find is something that's high enough that he can jump off of in our match. And that is his main focus. Whereas I would argue that the main focus when we're first starting to put things together, our main focus should be how can we have the best match we can have, where are we in the card, all this sort of stuff. Whereas all Lou is interested in initially is where can I get my big dive for my highlight reel. So that's probably my pet peeve. I'm sure. See, when Lou was on, did you ask Lou what his pet peeve was of mine by chance?
I don't think we got to the pet peeve part.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad because I would worry about what he would say.
Well, right now at your Glasgow grindhouse, you had a lot of tag team names before you settled on that.
Yes, yeah, we did. So I think our sort of initial name, if memory serves, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think our initial name was, we initially went by Pure Dead Brilliant, I want to say.
Yes,
And
that was one
that
of them, at
was,
least.
yeah, so that was, we done, I don't know if it's something you would be familiar with, but there was a promotion, a kind of short-lived promotion in the UK called 5 Star Wrestling.
Yeah.
So basically 5 Star is a sort of Freeview television channel in the UK. It's quite a big channel. It's not, I don't know many people that watch it all the time, but it's in most homes. And there was a promotion that ran sort of kind of short-lived, but they ran a lot of they ran like the Echo Arena in Liverpool. They ran, I can't remember the name of the arena, in like sort of Belfast, but they ran all these big arenas, and they done a sort of short tour. So when we initially were there, we were in as the sort of, their characters were kind of like traditional Scottish sort of, I don't know, kind of just sort of quite typical Scottish television characters is what we were playing, and a very sort of, a very stereotypical Scottish phrase would be to describe something as pure dead brilliant. So that was our name at that point. At one point, I believe on Cage Match, it has us listed as Proper Mental X.
Yes.
At one point, that was a one show thing. And the story behind that one is, me and Lou could never agree on a tag team name. When we first started teaming together for years, we could never agree on a tag team name. Lou would have his idea, I wouldn't like it. I would have an idea, Lou wouldn't like it. So for years, we just went by Lou King Sharp and Krieger. And whoever got us a booking somewhere. So if I got a booking at a certain promotion for me and Lou, and the promoter said, "What's your tag team name?" I would pick without telling Lou, and vice versa. So we got a show in Newcastle, and it was Lou that had got this booking, and Lou was asked, "What's your tag team name?" And Lou had said, "Proper Mental," which we'd never agreed on. So, so Lou had said Proper Mental and sent the promoter a kiss at the end of the message. So it said Proper Mental X, and the promoter must not have known that Lou had sent him a kiss. So we were about to make our entrance, and the first time I heard that as a tag name was the announcer announcing us to the ring. So thankfully that was a one and done, because it's not the best tag team name I've ever heard.
Well, you were also Fight Network.
Yes, we were. So that was when we first got into ICW. We got in with Kid Fight. So Kid Fight he was in ICW at the time. He was Lou's trainer. He was one of my trainers. So we got in there, and it was essentially his faction, and we were the sort of tag team in that faction. So that was your name for years. And then when he left, and we became our own thing, that's where we really sort of knuckled down. We put our heads together and we tried to become our own team, and that's when we came up with the sort of Glasgow Grindhouse stuff.
The last one that I'll bring up, because there are like a bunch of them, is the Ronin.
Yeah, again, actually, I don't ever remember being announced as that. So basically, what happened was during COVID. So I know we're not alone in saying this, but obviously the pandemic was quite quite a hard time for everybody. But we, in terms of purely a professional point of view, so we had really felt as if we had really just sort of, or we were really starting, not our peak, nowhere near our peak, because I'm not 30 yet, and Lou's only, what, 25 or something, so we're only going to get better and better, but we had really felt as if we had started to come into our own. So we had just recently won the ICW tag team titles. We were feeling as if we were going from strength to strength, and then obviously the world shut down.
Right.
So we, at that point, that's when we were really putting our heads together on tag team names. One of the ones that Lou came up with at the time was the Ronin. It was never something that I loved. Lou had this whole sort of meaning behind it about what that meant and how it fitted the story that our characters had taken and all this sort of carry on. I was never too set on it, but at the time I didn't have any better ideas. So I think there was Lou, I don't know if Lou had said, but Lou he's heavily involved in, it used to be Copenhagen Championship Wrestling.
Yeah, CCW.
Yeah, but there's now, so CCW, Svensk Wrestling, Sid, and a few other promotions that, apologies, I can't remember off the top of my head. They've all sort of joined together now under one banner as Valor Wrestling. But when Lou was running, he used to run a lot of Copenhagen shows in Scotland, and he got us announced as the Ronin a few times on his own shows. But again, that was short lived. I feel bad saying that every tag team name was short lived. What we ended up doing was, so we done a lot of online classes with Chris Silvio, a wrestler for the States. He's also, I believe, he's one of the producers for NWA nowadays. So he helped us out a lot with sort of character stuff, character presentation, so much more stuff that I don't want to bore you and list everything that he helped with, but it was brilliant. He was very, very sort of detailed in helping us, and he played a big role in the sort of Glasgow Grindhouse sort of name, the Glasgow Grindhouse presentation. So he really helped us out a lot with that, and as far as I'm aware, it will be Glasgow Grindhouse to the day that we both hang up the boots now.
Alright. Now, when you and Lou as a tag team, you kind of decided to go your separate ways for the time being? Not exactly a breakup, but, kind of focusing on the singles run, no?
So, in terms of the singles stuff, so we still do a lot of tag team wrestling. We still, obviously, me and Lou still talk every day. The focus for both of us, I would say, is predominantly still the tag team. We both have aspirations of getting a contract somewhere. We both feel that the tag team may well be our best bet at doing that. We feel as if that might be where we have the most to offer. But so in terms of ICW, so Lou's no longer involved in ICW. Lou went his own way with that, which is absolutely fine. Lou made his own choice. He's his own man. So there is quite a lot of promotions that we still do our own single stuff in. But when we're on the promotions that we do wrestle on together, we're very focused on the tag team stuff.
Okay. Well, I mean, when it does come to Krieger solo, you do have a couple of singles championships on your shoulders right now. You're the first ever Pro Wrestling Scotland champion and the big massive wrestling champion at the same time. So, not just a champion of a company, but the first ever of two companies at primarily the same time. So what does that kind of mean to you, to be trusted as the guy for two, companies simultaneously.
It means the world. I think any championship is always going to, any wrestler that tells you that a championship doesn't mean a lot to them, in my opinion, is lying to you. It does. We'll get into this to try and be the top guy wherever we wrestle. So for a promotion to put that trust in you, it means an awful lot. It also it means a lot professionally as well, because it's very good to be given the challenge of, like I said, Big Massive Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Scotland. They both put on consistently very strong shows. In sort of the past year, most of their shows were joint shows, so they were co-promoting the events. And because they were co-promoting the events, they were far larger events than they previously used to be. And like I said, with the sort of increased budget of two people promoting it, they were bringing in consistently big names, and it was a they always were very strong cards. So like I said, they would bring in names such as James Storm and stuff, but on top of that, they would have a who's who of British wrestling almost. They would have Martin Kirby on almost every show. They would have Joey Hayes, they would have Daz Black, they would have, the list goes on and on. It was really some of the best wrestlers in the UK were on these shows. So to be given the challenge of not only holding both championships, but also to go out and main event almost every show, and to be trusted that I could follow these guys and give the fans a main event that they wouldn't feel cheated. In terms of they've spent their money, they've took the full family out to a wee night out at the wrestling. They want to be entertained, and to be given that trust that I'm going to send them home happy it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I've been lucky enough. I think that's been, Christ, that must be, I don't know, about a year and a half or something that I've had both of them, possibly even more, that I've had the championships now. So again, I feel as if I'm only going from strength to strength. As I said, I'm still in my 20s. I don't feel as if I've even came close to hitting my peak. So I think it's going to be hard for people to get the championships off me.
Hell yeah. Right, and you mentioned, they bring in big names like, James Storm and Martin Kirby. Maybe one of the names that you would want them to bring, or maybe not, Gangrel.
Oh, absolutely. Without a single hint of irony, Gangrel is by far he was my favourite wrestler growing up. I thought he was the coolest guy going. That's actually one of the heartbreaking things about me. It's one of the heartbreaking things about me sort of breaking my orbital bone. I was due to go out to DPW in Denmark. I was due to go out there, and I was due to be in a match with Gangrel. So the fact that fell through was a bit of a sore one. But yeah, absolutely. I think from a personal point of view, I would love it to be Gangrel. I think sort of me as a child would absolutely love that. But anytime you get the chance to wrestle people that have been where, let's be honest, they've been where we all want to be. They've been a contracted television wrestler. That's where anybody that's on the indies, that's the long-term goal. So when you get the chance to either wrestle with people or be on a show with people, to get feedback from them, to get the chance to learn from them, it's invaluable. And the fact that we get paid to get to spend time, wrestle, learn from the people that we grew up watching, the people that we idolise, we're incredibly lucky.
Well, keeping on, championships. You and Lou were ICW Tag Team Champions twice over.
Yep.
What did it mean to you to win those championships? Because, obviously, ICW, one of the more credible, recognizable names in, UK wrestling.
Yeah. It was. It's hard to it's hard to put any words, to be honest with you. In particular, the first time that we won it, because Lou had been in and around ICW maybe 4 or 5 times. He'd maybe been in for a match or two, and then they sort of, I would say, they didn't have anything else for him. I had been in. I had done. I had a tag match. They done a almost like a sort of invitational show at one point, where it was the whole gimmick of the show was it was people that weren't normally in ICW. I had done that. Didn't bring me back after that. We then done they had ran a. So ICW has its own sort of training school, GPWA. They had ran a breakout tournament 2 years in a row, which I was in. Again, that put me in the shop window, but it didn't quite get me a foot in the door at ICW. So it felt like a real struggle for me and Lou to really solidify a place for ourselves in ICW. And then when we did get a spot on the roster, it was a struggle for us to get meaningful stories, loads of time for our matches. So it was a sort of uphill journey for us. So the first time that we won the championships, it really felt as if right, we've earned our place here. And it also helped that we won them from the Purge. We won them from Stevie James and Crowbar. They're two guys that I think are always going to mean quite a lot to myself and Lou in our careers, and having spoke to them, I think that they would say the same, because we were very much in the same boat. So both of the teams got into ICW at the same time for what felt like years. It was constantly Lou King Sharp and Krieger versus the Purge, and every combination of match you could ever imagine. It was some combination of us four going up against each other, and we were all trying to raise each other up. We were all trying to help each other out to really get ourselves solidified in that tag division, and then for everything to come sort of full circle, where we then wrestled each other at one of the biggest shows of the year for the tag team championships, was brilliant. But then the second time we won it was very much so the first time we won it, we felt as if that solidified us in ICW. The second time we won it, we felt as if that solidified us in European tag team wrestling. We felt as if we had sort of graduated from a very good team UK terms, where we now feel as if we're a team that we feel as if we could go up against anyone in Europe and we wouldn't look out of place.
Oh yeah. And shortly after, winning those titles for the first time, you would find yourself on the WWE network. It's not every day an independent pro wrestler finds themselves on, the biggest platform for pro wrestling. So, what did that mean to you to have your name be on the network? And obviously, it's Peacock now.
Yeah, it's amazing. It was very cool for people in my sort of everyday life that are very supportive of wrestling, but obviously they don't fully understand how big a deal it is for certain independent promotions here, there, and everywhere. So to be able to show the people, like there's one of my matches there on the WWE network, was really, really cool. I mean, it's if 12-year-old me could see or knew that I was on the WWE network, or at least used to be on the WWE network or Peacock, they would lose their mind. So it was something that we had always sort of heard whispers about for probably a number of years before it had happened. But much the same as any sort of job, you always hear wee rumblings of certain things happening or big developments in your workplace, and out of 10 developments that you hear might happen, maybe one of them will. So we'd heard it for years, and then it was a bit of a surprise for everyone when it actually happened, because I think we were just scrolling through the network one day, and just by chance we found some ICW content, and then obviously they started to add so much of all sort of European wrestling. So the ICW, the Progress, they had WXW. I might be forgetting one, I'm not sure. But they had so many, and it was brilliant. It came at a time where British wrestling had a massive boom, and then off the back of that boom, obviously all these sort of opportunities happened. Me and Lou are very lucky, because we weren't part of the team that took it to the heights that it got to, with in Scotland in particular. Our sort of wrestling scene had its big boom period. There was a documentary that was on our sort of national Freeview channel, and it was mainly, at the time, we still had Drew Galloway. He had came back once he had sort of been released by WWE, so he came back. He was the catalyst for everything that happened, him and Grado. So no, it was brilliant. Obviously now we're no longer on the WWE network. We're back on Triller TV now, formerly Fight TV. But even that, it's amazing to have the chance to get our matches out there to such a big audience. Because similar to yourself with the podcast, mate, the hardest thing is getting yourself out there and getting eyes or ears on your content.
Right. And I mean, the first thing ICW ever uploaded to the WWE network was yourself and Lou, in somewhat of an interesting promo, no?
Yes, it was. So I don't think it was the very first thing they uploaded, thankfully. But the very first thing that got uploaded, or the very first thing that me and Lou could find of ourselves. So the story is, Lou phoned me when I was at my sort of shoot job, if you will. Lou had phoned me and said, we might be on the network, because there was, and I'm going to forget the two wrestlers that it was, but Lou had said, I've just seen I don't know, but he told me he'd seen a certain ICW match on the network. And I was like, alright, okay, that's a bit random. So when I got home, I had typed in her name to search for it, and at the time we were wrestling, we were building up to a match against Sha Samuels, who was on NXT UK. We were building up for a match between him, or against him, and Jack Jester. When they were teaming together, they were known as the Kinky Party, so that was their whole gimmick. Now me and Lou wanted to film a promo, and what we were trying to put across is that we were trying to get ready for the Kinky Party, and the only way that we could get ready for the Kinky Party was to be as kinky as the Kinky Party. So Lou decided in this promo that the only way for me to do that was to take his bum bag and sort of, I don't know what the correct term for it would be, potentially spank him with a bum bag. And at the time, we thought it was very funny. As two young wrestlers, we thought it was hilarious. As soon as it went on the WWE network, and me and Lou had the realisation that in whatever minuscule chance, whatever 0.005% chance there is that Vince McMahon and Triple H or HBK stumble across some of their stuff, the very first thing they see of us is us hitting each other in the bum with a bum bag. And we thought, that's the WrestleMania dream dead right there and then, isn't it?
That's in the WrestleMania video package. when
Well,
the
yeah.
match goes on.
Well, yeah, this is true. It could make a good video package, but I don't know. They need to go back to the PG-13 stuff for that, probably.
Speaking of tag teams you've been in the ring with, I don't think there gets bigger of a name in tag team pro wrestling than the Briscoes.
Yeah.
You had a TLC match with them. Can you tell us about your experience being in the ring with the Briscoe brothers?
So that whole day was a bit of a blur, to be honest, because that was the first time that me and Lou had wrestled at the Hydro in Glasgow. So that's, for anybody unfamiliar, that's the sort of big national arena in Scotland. It's the same place that when WWE come over to run their tours, that's the arena that they run in Glasgow and stuff. So it's a really it's a venue that me and Lou had never even dreamed of wrestling at on an independent level. So firstly, we had the high of being there, and then on top of that, the ICW show had some real legends on that show. So if memory serves, Rey Mysterio was on the show. Kevin Nash was like the commissioner. So we're walking about backstage, and there's so many legends there. And then the match we were in, so we were lucky enough to get to open the show. And I believe it was a 6-team sort of TLC match. I would be lying, and apologies to everybody involved. I'm not going to remember everybody that was involved, but the Briscoes were in it, and it was obviously it would have been amazing to have got to have wrestled them in a sort of straight up tag team match, but just to be around them, just to sort of listen to how they put stuff together, and that was amazing. Me and Lou was I think maybe some of the first out. We were, if memory serves, we were in the ring when the Briscoes made their entrance, so that was a really cool moment, because that's a team that me and Lou sort of looked up to for years. It's a team that we would, if you had asked me and Lou what's your sort of dream match on the Indies, it would have been the Briscoes. So to have had that match to an extent meant the world to us. It really did. I just wish that it could have I wish it could have happened when me and Lou were a lot better, because we are a lot better now. But such is life, to be in that, to have that experience. That's something that whole day, like I said, to wrestle the guys in that arena, that's something that I'll tell. If I'm lucky enough to have grandkids, that's a story I'll tell my grandkids.
Now, you mentioned, Kevin Nash was there. Did you have any interaction with Kevin Nash?
Very, very limited. Very, very limited. In the small conversations we had, it was very much like, nice to meet you, I'm such and such, blah blah blah. But it was, what I will say is that everyone that was there, when we have certain conversations, everyone mentions how, pardon the pun, but everybody mentions how cool he was. Everybody mentions how, like, that's we've been lucky enough. Most of us have that are on these sort of shows, and most of us have been lucky enough that we have sort of rubbed shoulders with some of the people that we idolised growing up, and probably still do idolise. But nobody, or I've not heard anybody say a single bad word about Nash. It was just such a cool guy. He had, as much as it was only that wee 5 minutes of, hey, how you doing? He had time for everybody, which we would have all understood if he had just sort of sat himself in his own locker room and only spoke to the people that he knew. But he had time for everybody. He didn't make anybody feel as if they were beneath him. So that was a cool guy.
I do mention, Kevin Nash because your aesthetic nowadays is very Kevin Nash-esque.
Yeah, yeah. So for years I tried to find what I liked, what I wanted to wrestle like, and for years I would say that instead of doing what I liked or doing what I thought was cool or comfortable for me or fit my character, I tried too hard to sort of look like a wrestler, if that makes sense. I thought,
Yeah.
no, wrestlers need to have singlets, wrestlers need to have this, wrestlers need to have that, blah blah blah. So for years I was trying to fill, in my head at least, I was trying to be what I thought promoters wanted, as opposed to now, for the past, maybe the past 3-4 years, I've started more so to focus on making myself what promoters want, if that makes sense. Instead of trying to be what promoters want, I'm making it the point now that promoters will want what I'm giving them.
Right.
And it's, I think, without trying to sound arrogant in any way, I think that the sort of proof is, the proof's there, because my last number of years, every year's got busier and busier and busier. This 2023 there was my busiest year to date. And that's including the years that I had full-time runs on the holiday parks. This year was by far my busiest, so it's only going from strength to strength, and long may it continue.
Now, we speak about, the Briscoe brothers, arguably one of the greatest tag teams of all time. From one of the greatest tag teams of all time to a tag team where you go, huh, that's interesting. Grado and Santino Marella.
That was probably the most fun match that I've ever had. So again, I've been lucky enough to wrestle Grado on a number of occasions, and Grado's for Scottish wrestlers, Grado's the man. Grado's the reason that we've all got most of the opportunities that we've got just now. Without Grado, there's no hydro shows. Without Grado, I would argue, without Grado, we never get to the point where we're on WWE Network. Grado was responsible for the real boom in Scottish wrestling. So that's always fun. Santino Marella, everybody loves Santino Marella. Santino Marella, you could argue, is one of the best characters there has been on sort of TV wrestling and forever. So they two teaming together was such a fun tag team. And to be the good thing, and I mean this in the best way possible, I was very much an extra in that match. It was very much Grado and Santino Marella's match. It was about letting them get all of their stuff in, because the fan paid to see that tag team. They didn't pay to see me. And that was brilliant, because it meant that I could just enjoy what they were doing. And it was, as much as it had been fun, it was also a really good learning experience as well, because to see how guys at that level, how they get the reaction from the crowd that they want when they want, it was brilliant. It was a really, really fun match. It was also, I think it was for WrestleZone as well, which is a promotion in Aberdeen, which quite often when everybody talks about the sort of growth of Scottish wrestling, a lot of the time, because they're so far, so Aberdeen's quite, it's up north in Scotland, it's quite far away from the sort of central belt of Glasgow and Edinburgh and stuff, which gets most of the focus when people talk about it. But WrestleZone, I think, had between 800 to 1,000 people at that show. They routinely used to draw 800 to 1,000 people at the biggest shows of the year. So that's a promotion that needs a lot of respect on its name as well.
Oh yeah. Now, I think it's a good time for Krieger's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Oh, what would I say? So one of the ones, so one that I shouldn't really laugh, but I've already laughed, so there's no point in saying that now. So I don't know if you're familiar with Shay Monet at all. He's a very, very talented, quite young wrestler from Scotland. He's really made a name for himself in the UK. I think he's going over at the start of this year, maybe in a few weeks actually. He's going over for one of the shows with the Effie runs. I don't know if it's
the Big Gay
one of the
bunch.
I don't know if it's that show, or I don't know if it's a show that he's running in conjunction with like GCW or something. So apologies if I'm mixing up some details. But there was one show that me and him done together in Preston, and we were driving back up. We were driving the van, so we had the ring job. So we were coming from Glasgow down to Preston in England with the ring van. It maybe was about a 3.5 hour drive each way. We were coming back up, the tyre blew out on the van, so we managed to get it out of the hard shoulder, thankfully, and we're waiting about for ages, waiting for the roadside recovery, and Shay needs a toilet. So Shay needs a toilet, which is absolutely fine. Obviously, we've all been there. But now, I can't remember all the details here, so apologies. But for whatever reason, he decided to go right up into the fields to do the toilet instead of at the side of the road. So he goes right up into these fields, and it's pouring down with rain, and it's quite a steep hill that he's on, right? So he goes up, disappears out of line of sight, and then he phones one of us and says that he thinks he's broke his collarbone. So you're like, right, okay, I don't really know how you do that when you're doing a pee, but okay. And he comes back down and he tells us the story, and the story that he tells us is he kept trying to find somewhere discreet enough for him to do a pee. For whatever reason, he felt as if he had to climb a fence to do so. As he was climbing the fence, he said that, in his words, there was a particularly angry sheep. A particularly angry sheep, which I believe, if memory serves, the sheep may have started to chase him. At which point he has tried to vault over this fence again, and as he's went to vault over this fence to flee a sheep, he's fallen and broken his collarbone. That's one of the ones that I found quite funny at the time. In terms of what other ones there are, Christ, there would be so many if I took the time to think about it. I've had loads of good sort of funny stories and stuff with Lou. In particular on the holiday parts, there's so many funny stories for the holiday parts. None that are immediately jumping to mind right now, but I'm sure if you ever have me back on, I'll think of a few for you.
Oh yeah. Well, that was a bizarre adventure to say the least. Alright, that being said, you've had interest in car rides. Can you tell us about denying the existence of bats?
Denying the existence of bats?
Yes.
Is this something that Lou told you I said?
No.
So I don't I don't know. Have I ever denied the existence of? Has someone said that I've denied the existence of bats?
Yes.
Right.
And you have confirmed on other media that you
Have
have
I?
denied the existence of bats.
Right. Well, that's quite a hard one for me to justify now, because thinking about it now, I don't know. I don't even know what my logic would have been there. I mean, I've never seen a bat in real life, so it could potentially be that. It could potentially be that I've never seen a bat in real life. Well, that's quite embarrassing if I've denied the existence of bats. Full stop. Well, I'm glad that you've given me the opportunity to put that one to bed. I can confirm, obviously, as if I'm a zoologist. So please don't take your I don't know, your animal facts from myself. But I can confirm, if there is anyone out there that has said, that is still standing by that bats don't exist because I've said so at one point, I can now confirm that bats do in fact exist.
Okay.
And I apologise for any misinformation that I may have put out there for a number of years.
All right. Now, can you tell us about your Snoopy tattoo?
Yes. So, my sort of childhood family pet was a wee dog. She was a brilliant wee dog. I know everybody says that about their childhood pet, but she was a lovely wee dog. Her name was Snoopy. So when she passed away, I decided to get the tattoo, sort of just a wee remembrance thing, a wee sentimental thing. I tend to normally cover it up with wrist tape and stuff, because as much as the tattoo means a lot to me, it's not exactly the coolest tattoo in the world. Doesn't exactly fit a pro wrestler, a wee Snoopy tattoo. But so credit where it's due, mate. When you said, when the email said that you do a lot of research, fair play, because I did not think you would have noticed the Snoopy tattoo. So that is very impressive. That is a very good endorsement of your skills there.
I don't know. It literally says that we do our research, and literally nobody believes us when we say that.
It does. That is very, very true. So I remember when I first started training, right? This is going off on a bit of a tangent, just so I talk about tattoos. I remember when I first started training, there was this, I don't know where it came from, but a lot of people, at least in Scotland, a lot of the people that I knew when I was training, we were all sort of told that, it might have been an old school thing, but we were all kind of told that the big companies, if they were thinking about signing you, they didn't want a lot of people with tattoos, because they wanted you to be a sort of blank canvas. They could make you whatever they wanted you to be. You could play whatever character, blah, blah, blah. And then within the next couple of years on NXT, you had so many people show up that were covered head to toe in tattoos. That you had obviously Aleister Black, who has a lot of tattoos. And I remember thinking, so I started training in 2013. I debuted in 2014. And when I first got told, at the time I wanted loads of tattoos, so I don't actually know why I don't have more. But at the time, the very first time I heard that, I remember then going home, and when I was watching wrestling, I think the top guy at the time, probably even the champion, was CM Punk, who was covered in tattoos as well. And I was like, I don't really know if the advice I'm being given is 100% true here.
Is that the only tattoo that you have?
Yeah, it's the only one I have. It's the only one I have. I've always thought I would like a few more, but even that wee tattoo, I wasn't expecting it to be as uncomfortable as it was. And I know you get a lot of people that say, "Oh, they're no sore at all." Maybe I've just got a low pain threshold, but I don't think so as a professional wrestler. So anyone that says that they enjoy getting tattoos, I don't believe them, because it was sore. A wee tiny tattoo like that, I found sore.
Well, was that one of the conversations you had with Malachi when you rode with him?
So I only had one. I only had one sort of journey with him. So he was doing a show for Scottish Wrestling Alliance in Motherwell, and the show that I was on, in fact, actually, I tell you, I wasn't even on that show, actually. I was still at the point where I was sort of doing ringside security and stuff for that show, was in Dumbarton, so maybe about a 40-minute drive. He was on first half main in Motherwell, and then, so I was asked to go pick him up for that show and drive him there in time for the main event of the second show. And it was just me and him. And again, he was quite a nice guy, obviously. As a sort of young trainee, you're a wee bit apprehensive of these guys, do you know what I mean? You don't really know what to say, you don't want to say the wrong thing or anything like that.
Right.
And he asked me, he took a bit of an interest in sort of my very formative sort of wrestling career. I wouldn't even say career at that point, because it was just sort of trainee shows I was doing. But he took a bit of an interest, asked about my wrestling name, this, that and other thing. And he asked where I got my wrestling name. And I had told him the story that so my dad's favourite wrestler when he was growing up was the Ultimate Warrior. So when I wanted to pick a wrestling name, or when I was picking a wrestling name, I wish I had a better story than this, but I put Warrior into Google Translate and translated it and picked what one I thought sounded coolest. So he says to me, he went, "Oh, that's quite cool. So what language did you pick?" And I said, "It's German." And then he sort of, not in a rude way, but he sort of told me off, because he said that it was a Dutch word, not German. And if I was going to use the word, then I should at least know where it came from. So after that, I'll be honest, that was a bit of a conversation killer, that one, but thankfully we were only about 10 minutes from the venue at that point.
All right. Well, can you tell us about your time at the Leprechaun Museum?
Yeah. So this is impressive, by the way, that you know this. This is quite cool. So me and my girlfriend went to Dublin on holiday. I couldn't even tell you what year that was. Maybe, I think you're at least 5 years ago now. We went to Dublin. One of her good friends stays over there. Went to Dublin. Lovely city. So much to do in Dublin. But while we were there, we were checking into the hotel, and the lady behind reception saying, "So what are you doing while you're here?" We're telling her what we've got planned, blah, blah, blah. And she said, "You should go to the Leprechaun Museum." Now, I can't speak for you, but when someone says to me, "You should go to the Leprechaun Museum," I am immediately sold. There is nothing I want to do more in that moment than go to the Leprechaun Museum. So we went to the Leprechaun Museum. Now, in hindsight, I should have known this, but what took me by surprise slightly is that the Leprechaun Museum is very much geared towards children. Now, I can understand if that doesn't surprise you, but it did surprise me. But it was only myself and my girlfriend that were at that tour of the Leprechaun Museum. And credit where it's due, the tour guide of that sort of time slot that we had, it was proper Undertaker level of not breaking kayfabe, because even though it was just me and my girlfriend, and we all knew that none of us believed that leprechauns were real, he still delivered that tour as if leprechauns were not only real, but leprechauns lived in that building. And then there was one bit where we had to crawl through a wee tunnel, and he says, "You're going to crawl through this tunnel and you're going to transform them into leprechauns." And we were, all right, okay. And he still went right ahead with it, and we went in, and there was this room that had big, gigantic furniture. I don't know if you've ever seen Alice in Wonderland. So when she drinks the potion and then she shrinks, it was like that. So we go in, and there's humongous chairs and all that. But no, this guy like proper sold it to us as if, "Oh no, I've lost the magical potion that's going to turn you back into humans. You might need to live your life with leprechauns." But again, he sort of, like the Undertaker, there was no, you could not get this guy to break character. He was very worried that I was now a leprechaun for life. So yeah, it was quite an experience.
I would say so myself.
Yeah. So if anyone's in Dublin, I would recommend the Leprechaun Museum.
There are some really interesting museums out there.
There is. It's amazing what some people dedicate their life to, and I respect it. I respect that they're following their passion, but some people have passions that I wouldn't have expected.
Yes. And that being said, if you want another interesting museum story, then check back with the Moondog Mori interview last week that we did.
Okay. What museum? I'm not asking you to tell me the story, but what museum was it that you went to?
It was the because I'm trying not to get cancelled right now. It was the
All right.
it was the Museum of Racist Memorabilia.
Wow.
He
That's not what I expected you to say.
It was not. He did not go there of his own free will. I will say that.
I'm definitely going to listen to hear that story.
And then handsome Max Zero went to a museum that what was it? It proved that that dinosaurs existed in the Bible.
All right. Okay. That's an interesting take. That's good.
Right. I don't know how to segue out of that. You had a newspaper article written about you. It's one thing, to have it on the internet, but to actually have it in black and white, in your hand. What did that something like that mean to you?
So it's again, it's always nice to have that recognition. I like to think that I know everyone would say this. I like to think that I'm not arrogant or anything like that. So any time that you get that recognition, it's still a little surprising. But two, it means a lot. In particular, so I've been lucky enough a few times that one of the national newspapers has sort of covered stuff. It tends to be so ICW. So they're one of the referees there. So Thomas Cairns, who's a referee there, one of if not the best referee in the UK, if not Europe. He also doubles up as the sort of I don't even know what the official title would be, but almost like the I don't know, but he deals with sort of the public relations almost. So he's really good at trying to help us all get these opportunities where we can sort of, I don't know, maybe do a story about us in our a big match we've got coming up or a big achievement we've done, this, that, and other thing. He's also really good at kind of localising that as well. So some of us will get in the national newspaper if we're lucky enough, but also there'll be a lot of people that might get in their sort of local towns paper. And bizarrely, I always kind of that one I always find a little bit cooler, because that's the one that in my wee local town it's free on all the buses and stuff. So you get a lot of people that will read it, or you'll get a lot of people that will say, "Oh, I seen you in the Wisher Press. I seen you in this. I seen you in that." It's the one that my gran always mentions to me, which is always quite nice. Which is always nice when my wee gran's like, "Oh, I seen you in this, son." I don't know if she. I don't know if she fully understands everything that goes on with wrestling, but it's always nice when you get family members that notice it and are very supportive of it. It's nice to, even in a small way, sort of take them along on whatever crazy journey you're doing. So no, it's always quite cool.
All right. Now I think it's time for the colossal question. Let's say that they're making a movie about you. Every
Right, okay.
movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on your movie soundtrack?
The first 3 songs? Oh, that is a good question. I think you would need to go for Bulls on Parade by Rage Against the Machines.
Okay.
It's the song that I've used for entrance music for years. I think I would also go for Kickstart My Heart by Motley Crue.
Okay.
Because again, it's a song that I've used for some entrance music, 2 of my favourite songs. And then I think I would also go for I'm Caught. I've got 2 in mind. What would I go for? I would go for Times Like These by the Foo Fighters, because it's a song that's fit for every occasion. So if there's getting a movie made, you can put that in a happy scene or a sad scene, just fill your boots.
I must say that's a solid 3 picks.
What would your 3 be? I don't know if anybody's ever asked you, what would your 3 be?
Ooh, it would be Sia would be in there. What's that one? Alive.
Alright, okay.
Don't Want to Stop, Ozzy Osbourne.
Nice.
And there's an artist named Nina something, and her song is called Life's a Bitch.
Alright, okay. Sounds good. I'm not familiar with the last song, but the first 2 sound good.
Yeah. Alright, now that we have the soundtrack down, then we write the script, and then we go to casting.
Right.
Who plays Krieger? And you can't say yourself because you are legally obligated to make a Stanley-esque cameo.
Who would play me in a film? Well, if it was my choice, I'd be picking somebody like Brad Pitt. But I don't think many people would believe Brad Pitt would play me in a film. So who would play me in a film?
If you're executive producer, Brad Pitt could be Krieger.
Who would play me in a film? Christian Bale. Because also Christian Bale, if they're doing a film of my life, and if they're doing a film about wrestling, when I first started, I went through a couple of years where I was carrying a bit more weight than I should have been carrying, and Christian Bale has shown that he can go from very skinny to very fat to back. So that's a man that could cover all areas of my career and do it justice. He could even do my fat spell well.
Alright. Now every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people significant to you in your story, and who would play them?
Oh, 3 people significant to me, and who would play them? You would need to have Lou in it, and I think Lou would need to be played by Danny DeVito. Who else would you have? You would need to have Lucha DS in it, because he's the person that I've wrestled more than anyone. Now, I don't really know how I would cast him, because obviously he wears a mask. So who? I don't know. He could maybe be played by Jack Black.
Okay.
He could be played by Jack Black. I would need to have Big TJ in it, because he trained me. He would tell you it would be Vin Diesel or The Rock, but it wouldn't be Vin Diesel or The Rock. Who would play him in a film? What bald actors do I know? Who would play him in a film? That's a good question. Jonah Hill, but he would need to shave his head.
All right. Interesting casting to say the least.
Yeah, I don't think many people will go see that film, but
On the contrary, I would definitely go see this movie. And you could pre-order the tickets now. Alright, now you are from Scotland, so I do have
yes.
two Scottish exclusive questions.
All right, okay.
The first one being, have you ever had a deep fried Mars bar?
No, I have not. I have not. I know of a few chip shops that sell them. Thankfully, I can report that they're not sold in every one. We're not that unhealthy, but no, I've never had it. I like stuff that's deep fried. I like Mars bars. I don't think the two should ever cross paths. I think that's some sort of weird Frankenstein type monstrosity that should never happen. But who knows? Who knows? People will do anything.
And have you ever been to Loch Ness?
Yes, I have been to Loch Ness. Not very often, but I have been. I went on a holiday at one point where we sort of hired a camper van and drove up the Scottish equivalent of I'm forgetting the name of it now. What's the very famous highway in America? Route 66.
Yeah.
So we've got a sort of Scottish equivalent where if you take this road, it takes you by so many famous landmarks, so many famous places up north, all the scenery and stuff that we have up there. One of the stops there is Loch Ness. So it's lovely. It's one of the ones where I think a lot of that stuff's maybe wasted on us in Scotland because like we're maybe there's a lot of lochs that are a lot closer to me than Loch Ness. So when you've seen one, once you've seen one loch, you've seen them all. Do you know what I mean? They're just different sizes.
I mean, only one loch has a monster attached to it.
Well, this is very, very true. This is very, very true. I've yet to see Nessie or the Loch Ness monster. I've yet to see her. But this is true. It is a very sort of famous. I don't know what you would call it. I don't know, folk tale. And I think everyone in Scotland at one point has had a wee Loch Ness monster teddy when they were younger.
Well, you may have not seen the Loch Ness monster, but you wore a leprechaun at one point. So
well, exactly. This is true. This is true, and I now we'll put it this way: there's more chance of the Loch Ness monster being real than bats. I can tell you that much.
On to the most controversial of subjects: pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
No, it's not for me. It's not for me. I don't like pineapple anyway. So I'm not going to lie and say that I've tried pineapple on pizza. So I might be missing out. It might be beautiful, but for me, it's a big no-no. But I do need to justify my answer by saying that I don't like pineapple anyway.
Alright. What's your spirit Pokemon?
Oh, Snorlax.
Hell yeah.
Snorlax, because it sleeps very often. And I think that if I could have the life of any Pokemon, it would be Snorlax.
Oh yeah. Now, we love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Doug? THUG.
Oh, I feel as if I should. Oh, there's two people that I'm good mates with in wrestling. That's obviously Lou and Tim Strange as well. And they both are massive Tracy Smothers fans. And the fact that I don't know this, I know that I'm going to get a couple of text messages shouting at me for this, but I'm going to need to say no. I'm going to say I can't remember it, I'm sorry.
T is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for jail, because a Doug can't spell.
Brilliant. I love it. I love it. If I ever get another tattoo, that's it.
Weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview. Hopefully, would you ever consider wrestling a rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical rock.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I reckon that you would be hard pushed to find things that me and Lou would not wrestle if the money was right. I think that if the money is right, we would wrestle almost anything.
Well, just for context, there is this wrestler named Psycho Mike that did wrestle a rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match. That's an Iron Man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez, oh. That is a skill. It brings a well. See if there's people out there wrestling rocks. Why do we still see when we're describing someone as a good wrestler? Why do we still say that they could wrestle a broomstick? Surely the new thing needs to be they could wrestle a rock.
And yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. Because no, I think it's a broomstick because nobody had the dart to actually wrestle a rock except Psycho Mike, honestly.
Well, obviously, Psycho Mike is a revolutionary.
That he is. Alright, on a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, I would like to be. The ultimate goal, as I've said a few times, the ultimate goal is to get a contract somewhere. The ultimate goal is to be a contracted wrestler somewhere. Where that is, I have no preference, but that's the ultimate goal. The next steps to make that a reality, I think, are for myself and Lou to continue to branch out as a team. We've had up until maybe the middle of last year, we've both, Lou more so than me, but we've both travelled to a lot of countries to wrestle. We've not done that as often as we would like, or as often as we're going to do this year as a tag team. So that's the next steps. I feel very confident in my sort of position in UK wrestling, in particular Scottish wrestling. My next steps are to try and branch out to. I would love to get over to the States. Obviously, the States are quite difficult to get to, based around visas and whatnot for working. I'd love to get to North America. Canada's a place I'd love to wrestle. Obviously, the sort of Asian market with Japan, and there's so much wrestling over there. There's so much wrestling around about the world, to be honest. My short-term goals are to travel a lot more with wrestling, to try and branch out into new countries, new markets, with the long-term goal of being that if I do that enough, then hopefully eventually I'll be able to get a contract somewhere.
Hell yeah. And what is a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what you are all about?
Ooh. Best shows off. I think that... Ooh, that's a good question. I had... What would I say? I think that... Oh, that is a good one. So over the law, I had a match with Mark and Kirby this year, which I think was one of the best matches that I've had. I had that match for Premier British Wrestling. I believe that's on their YouTube channel. In terms of the matches of mine that are most readily available are probably ICW's, because they're still on either their on-demand service or Peacock or Fight TV. I would say that my best ICW match as a tag team, I think you're looking at, you might be looking at any of the matches that me and Lou had with the Kings of the North were very good matches. Any of the matches that we had with any of the matches that we had with the Purge are matches that people would enjoy. They were more so big brawls, but I think people would get a lot of enjoyment out of them. In terms of the match that I'm most proud of, I wrestled Rampage Brown this year. So 2023 was a year where, as a singles wrestler, I really got to wrestle a lot of people that I felt really sort of gave me a chance to show what I can do in a singles capacity. So wrestled Martin Kirby, Rampage Brown, BT Gunn. I had a lot of matches. If people do go and follow me on Facebook, if you scroll down, there was a match that I shared not that long ago for Pro Wrestling Scotland against BT Gunn. I think that's a match that a lot of people would enjoy. I think that's a match that shows off really what you can expect if you go and see a show that I'm on. So that's, if a gun to my head, I would maybe say that match.
Okay. And I will. You said that the Modern Kirby match was on YouTube.
I believe so. I believe that's on the Premier British Wrestling YouTube page, but I'm not 100% certain on that one.
Well, I will look for that match on YouTube, and I will throw the link in the description of this video below, both on YouTube and Castbox.
No worries.
I will go to Facebook as well and look for that other match that you mentioned. I am not as inept in Facebook as I should be, but I will look for that match as well and put a link to that match as well.
No problem. Thank you.
Absolutely. And anybody that hasn't seen it, wants to see it, wants to re-see it after this interview, they can. And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom.
Dun, dun, dun.
This is our speed round or bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
Okay, absolutely.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
I'm not doing well at the speed round, am I? Kurt Angle.
Worst.
Oh, God. Worst wrestler of all time. Giant Gonzalez.
You're main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Ooh. CM Punk.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Gangrels.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Complicated.
We would have also accepted taste great on toast. Squash. Vegetable or fruit?
Ooh. Vegetable, I think.
It is indeed a fruit.
Wow, you learn something every day. I did not know that.
Yes, tomato logic. It has seeds.
Ah.
New Japan wrestler Taichi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
I wouldn't know. I've never worn trunks. But I don't really think that you should have any butt cheek on show. I think you should think of wrestling trunks the same way you would think of underwear. And if my underwear was showing my butt cheeks, I would buy new underwear.
So full coverage.
Full coverage for me, yes.
Okay. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
No, I have not.
And that is the correct answer. And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me.
No, thank you for having me, mate. That was really good fun. Thank you.
Absolutely. And once again, where can we find things, all things Krieger on social media?
So everything, whatever social media platform it is, it's all at Krieger UK.
All right. And you don't even have to type it into your Google machine. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox. Simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Give him a damn follow. Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment. But on YouTube and Castbox, this was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. Join us next Tuesday and Wednesday for new incredible interviews. Follow the show at Wrestling with E, but on X, Instagram, and Thread for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. Follow me personally at JamesG993. Alright, when I say wrestling wit, you say entertainment, okay?
Okay.
For our special guest, Krieger, Calico Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling Wit
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.